So mute by the time we are doing the prayers, but you feel free to pray along. All participants are muted and they can unmute themselves. And we'll go here. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Tasmai Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padkamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapt Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. So welcome once again to our Tuesday evening Bhagavad-gita call, and we are doing chapter number 6 these days, and today's verse is going to be 636. But before we go and do that, I just wanted to also do a little bit of a recap, because we have been dwelling on chapter number 6 for quite some time now, and we just need to find our bearings and just get the answer on how, what we are, what are we trying to achieve, what was it that Arjuna asked initially, and things like that. So if you look at chapter number 6, basically it talked in the beginning about how one can advance in yoga through being detached from work. And there we talked about terms like Nishkam yogis, who are engaged in work, but they do not focus their attention on the results of the work. We leave the results to Krishna. And if one has to progress in devotional service, then one has to do that. One has to take that route to do it. And then Krishna also said, because there's always this question on, I'm doing devotional service, so should I give up my regular work or not? Right? And that's when Krishna came up and said that it's not a question of giving up, because this is exactly what Arjuna kind of was thinking to do in chapter number 1, when he set aside his bow, Gandiva, and went and sat at the back of the chariot right in the beginning of the war. So Krishna says that no, you should not do that. And especially when you are a neophyte, when you are a beginner, you should not do that. It's okay when you reach the advanced stage of yoga, then you can give up the work, right? But you have to first raise your mental state should be there, and you should be able to control your mind in such a way that you are able to see that there is a super soul in everyone, in everything, and that there's a God everywhere. So I'm going to consider and look at everybody equally. And in the Srimad Bhagavatam, we hear about Lord Rishabh-dev, who gave instructions. He had 100 sons, And Rishabh-dev is actually a incarnation of the Lord, is a plenary incarnation of the Lord. And he had 100 sons, and famous, all of them were into devotional service. Some of them took sannyas. And then we have, of the 10 are very, very famous, and they get called in Srimad Bhagavatam again and again. And those 10, of those 10, the eldest one was known as Maharaj Bharat. And he was, after him, this planet Earth came to be known as Bharatvarsha because he was such a wonderful king. And before that, it was called Ajanabhavarsh, like that. But he was called, after him, this planet came to be called as Bharatvarsh. And of course, he was the ruler of the entire planet Earth, like that. And so he was giving special instructions, and they are very famous instructions to his sons. And so his first son was Maharaj Bharat, and his next, from the top 10 that I'm talking about, 9 are known as the Nava Yogendras, Havi, Kavi, Pipalaya, like that. And they give very nice instructions as well, down the line in Srimad Bhagavatam. And some of the very famous verses actually come from their lotus mouth, like that. So he was Rishabh-dev, through his instructions, first and foremost teaches his sons how to live life. And then later on, of course, throughout his life also, but more so at the later stage of life, he gives up everything, his royal opulence, etc. And even before he had given up the throne, actually, he becomes detached from all the work. And he stopped doing any work. And towards the later stage, he would not even eat anything. He would not even get up from what place he was. He took up what is known as a ajagara vritti. Like, he started taking the behavior of a ajagar, a python. And what does a python do? It'll get something to eat, it'll gobble up the whole big animal, and then it'll lie down. And that's it, and won't move from there. And if another animal comes by, it'll just grab that animal, eat it, like that. So that's what he was doing, which basically is that he left everything. He was completely dependent on the personality of Godhead to give him food. And he would not do anything. So, but to do that, you have to reach the stage of Rishabh-dev. So reach yoga, yogic perfection at that kind of a stage. But we should not do that if we are pursuing the stage of the yoga that's being talked about in chapter number 6. We should continue to do what we are supposed to do, because Krishna says that Chaturvarna Maya Shrishtam. So I have created this Varnashram system. And even if you stay within the Varnashram system and pursue the duty that you are supposed to do, then you will get spiritually elevated, like that. So it's not that only the Brahmanas go back to Godhead and the Kshatriyas don't go back to Godhead. Actually, Srimad Bhagavatam has got stories of how even Kshatriyas and Shudras go back to Godhead, like that. So you have to perform whatever the process has been defined. You have to perform that particular process. And giving up work and not giving up work, those are things that you consider at a much higher stage. And then as we continue through chapter number 6, then he will start describing the practices of what is known as Ashtanga Yoga. So there are 8 limbs, Ashtanga, of the yoga. And then when you go through these stages, and these stages are, yam and niyam, pranayama, pratyahara, dhyana, dharana, and so on and so forth, like that. And so you go through these, you progress through these stages, and then the perfectional stage, which is known as yoga rudha. So yoga rudha is when you have, reached perfection. And that perfection, which we talk about for those who are pursuing the line of Jnana Yoga, is to be able to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead as the super soul in the heart. And then he will also talk about that, as part of the practices, what you should do, where you should sit, how you should sit, what you should eat, how much you should eat, how much you should sleep, where you should focus your attention, and things like that, right? So he tells all that, and then he says, once you reach the perfectional stage, then you will start seeing whether it is a pebble, whether it's a stone, whether it's gold. You see everything the same way. And not only that, it's easy to see objects the same way, but it's more difficult to relate to people because our emotions get involved there. Well, emotions could be involved even in pebbles and stones and gold, but there's more at stake when you are with human beings and living beings. So he says that, a perfect road yogi will see even honest well-wishers and friends and benefactors and mediators, all those people, they will see them as same, whether they are sinners, whether they are pious, because all that they see is the soul everywhere. And they say that soul is separate from the body, so why should I distinguish and discriminate based on what the external body is? And it doesn't matter what the body is doing. That's what they think. It doesn't matter what the body is doing, because ultimately nothing happens to the soul, right? Like that. So then Arjuna then hears all that, but he's a little bit not he's a little bit worked up, because he's saying that it is a very difficult thing for me to do. So he starts off with famous verse, the chanchalam hi manah Krishna pramati balvadranam. So he says that, how can I do that? Because to control the mind is even more difficult than controlling the wind. And Krishna, being his nice teacher and his benefactor, he doesn't scold Arjun. He doesn't say, hey, you're wrong. And in as much as Arjuna also, in his beautiful relationship with Krishna, doesn't tell Krishna that, hey, what you're telling is wrong. He just says and expresses his own inability to be able to do what Krishna is prescribing him to do. So he says that it is very difficult, and Krishna agrees, and he says, yes, it is difficult, but through suitable practice, you will be able to do that, right? So that was, a little summary of what we have been talking about up till now, right? And but nonetheless, he says that I'm telling you to control the mind, and if you are pursuing the route of a dhyana yogi, then that is the process. The dhyana yogi has to control the mind. That's one of the routes that we have decided to take, right? So if you have decided to take that route, then you have to follow the process properly. Okay? So he continues on in verse 6.36, which is the verse for today. And I'm going to grab that verse here and give it to you on the WhatsApp. And if you can confirm that you got it, then I can go. You got that? Okay, very good. Very good. And while I'm doing that, let me also go here and check. So we have Chitra Mataji, who also joined us on the call. That is fantastic. And let's get going here with the verse that we have. So the verse says, in the verse, asamyatatmana yogo dusprapa iti me matihi vasyatmana tu yatata shakyo vaptum upayataha. And the synonyms are asamyata. Asamyata means unbridled. Atmana, by the mind. Yogaha, self-realization. Dusprapaha, difficult to obtain. Iti, thus. Me, my. Matihi, opinion. Vashya, controlled. Atmana, by the mind. Tu, but. Yatata, while endeavoring. Shakya, practical. Avaptum, to achieve. Upayata, by proper means. So this is one verse where we have got a lot of new Sanskrit words, right? all new ones. So we'll just do a quick recap to catch a few of them. So if something is not under your control, what do you call that in Sanskrit? And before you can answer that, I'll have to unmute you, I believe, right?
All participants are unmuted.
Asamyata. Sonal Mataji gets that for 30 points. Okay, she opens her account today. 30 points. Yes, thank you so much for that, Sonal and Preeti.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Sorry, I had muted on, that's accidentally muted you on that phone myself. So yes, thank you so much, Sonal Mataji, for that answer. And Preeti Radhaki, that's the correct answer. Asamyata is unbridled. Okay, if something is difficult to obtain, what do you say that? Call that? Dushprapaha, yes. And if you achieve something, then what's the opposite of that? Obtain. Okay, let's look that from the verse. Avaptam, yes, that is true. Okay, and then if you when you endeavor to do something, right? What is that called? Yatataha. Okay, very good. And if I say that you have to put your senses under control, what word will you use? Vashya. Vashyaha, right. And if you tell back and want to tell me that, I don't want to follow that route according to me, Bhakti Yoga is a better one. So you're expressing your opinion. What is that called in Sanskrit? Matihi. Yes, Matihi. So Krishna tells a lot of time in Bhagavad-gita, this is my Matihi, ye me mataha, right? Like that, he'll say that quite a few times, right? Because he's not forcing things on Arjuna. He's letting Arjuna have his free will. He's saying that, okay, this is how it is. This is how it is. And even till the end, in the last chapter, he just says, now you do what you want to do, right? Because he has to give him the free will. So Matihi, but he can always express your opinion on that, right? So that is what happens to us in our real lives also, that when the kids are small and you are training them, then you tell them not to do. So there is a little bit more control that you have over a small kid. You can give them time off, or you can put, like, if they want to go into the kitchen, you can put a barricade in front of the kitchen door so that they don't come inside the kitchen and hurt themselves, right? You can block the access to the roofway so that they don't do that, right? Or you can give them time off so that they stand in a corner or sit in a corner and sulk like that. So there's a little bit more control that you can do. But as the child grows and becomes a teenager, and then they start doing their own things and they don't listen to you, right? At that time also, it doesn't mean that as a parent we have to stop telling them something, right? And stop telling them that what they're doing is right and wrong, or stop telling them what is the right thing that we should do. As a parent, it is our duty to guide them. And so you will keep on telling them, like, this is my opinion, this is my opinion, right? And now you're big enough, and then you have to guide your children even through adulthood, right? And if you live to be 90, when your kids, by the time your kids will be 60, believe me, they'll still be seeking some advice. They'll still be doing something that will need your intervention. So the traveler that I'm trying to draw here is that, so such is the case with our mind itself. So a grown-up child or a teenage mind is mind that has learned how to indulge itself a lot in the material world. And we have to keep on telling. So don't stop that, don't stop it. And then sometimes you have to let go. So just as with the teenagers, you let them go out and experience the world and then come back and tell you maybe decades later that, what you said was right. But sometimes they have to experience it. So similarly with the mind also, when you're controlling it, we let it go a little bit. And that's why we were talking about we took the example of a horse, right? And mind is like a wild horse, and we try to tame it by controlling it, but once in a while we let it go also, and then we control it back again. So here Krishna is saying that in the translation, for one whose mind is unbridled, self-realization is difficult work, but he whose mind is controlled and who strives by appropriate means is assured of success. That is my opinion. So he's talking about if the mind is unbridled, and if it's like that for you, then trying to find yourself. Who am I? Right? You are the soul. And then later on, who's the soul? Super soul. If you're trying to do that, then it is going to be a difficult work. Your mind is going to come along the way, in the way all the time. But if you control the mind and also you strive by appropriate means, that is important. Appropriate means is assured of success. He's assuring you. And that is my opinion, right? So you have to control the mind, but be cognizant of what is the means that you are employing to control your mind. In the purports, Prabhupada says, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The Supreme Personality of Godhead declares that one who does not accept the proper treatment to detach the mind from material engagement can hardly achieve success in self-realization. Trying to practice yoga while engaging the mind in material enjoyment is like trying to ignite a fire while pouring water on it. I really like this statement. Trying to ignite a fire while pouring water on it. Yoga practice without mental control is a waste of time. Such a show of yoga may be materially lucrative, but it is useless as far as spiritual realization is concerned. Therefore, one must control the mind by engaging it constantly in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Unless one is engaged in Krishna consciousness, he cannot steadily control the mind. A Krishna conscious person easily achieves the result of yoga practice without separate endeavor. But a yoga practitioner cannot achieve success without becoming Krishna conscious. So, deep purports, a lot of new things he's talking about there and reminding us again and again. So, Krishna in Bhagavad-gita, so question for you. In Bhagavad-gita, there are different types of yogas that are described, right? So can you tell me what are the different types of yoga that are talked about in Bhagavad-gita?
Karma yoga,
Karma
Jnana
yoga?
yoga,
Okay.
yoga, and bhakti yoga.
Bhakti yoga, right? So there are different types of yoga that Krishna will talk about. But then he's teaching, so he will talk about all these. And nonetheless, there's something at the going on at the back of his mind, and he's ultimately trying to lead Arjuna to it. Is he'll walk him through all the various ladders of yoga, right? Karma yoga, jnana yoga, dhyana yoga, but he ultimately really wants us all and Arjuna to come to the level of bhakti yoga, because that is what is the highest level of yoga. Yeah. So we will find all the time that he talks about this yoga and that yoga, but then again he will come back and say that but bhakti yoga is best, like that. So when it comes to dhyana yoga, right, let us see what are some of the things that Krishna has asked the dhyana yogi, has told that the dhyana yogi should do. Just give me maybe one each one of you. Don't, yeah, not one person, don't tell me everything, but just give me one each.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, to detach your mind from the material engagements.
Good.
So that is the only way to, then only you can concentrate on your mind and put it on Krishna consciousness.
Okay. So you have to disengage your mind from material and put it there. And I'm talking about the whole chapter 6, so you can, pick some from the beginning, whatever he has been telling us to do. What he's telling. Go ahead.
Sorry. I was just saying renunciation. He mentioned that linking oneself with the Supreme and renouncing the desire for material sense gratification.
Okay, good. And by terms of actions, what are some of the actions that he's telling the dhyana yogi to do?
In the beginning, he is mentioning that like who's neophyte, he has to first he has to do that practice Ashtanga yoga, and then is complete that part, then he can move on different levels. So
yeah. So what were some of the specific things that he says? What are some of the specific?
Controlling the mind.
Yeah, controlling the mind. Yoga is all about controlling the mind, but be more little bit more specific.
Yeah, he doesn't want us to be attached to the fruits of our work.
Very good, very good. Yeah. And then from a practical sense, you know, like, okay, so what does a yogi do to control his mind? He controls his mind, but what are some of the things he does?
He stays in a secluded place.
Yes.
Meditate and go into the secluded place, and then he is mentioning the height of the seeds and
Yes.
Isha grass, deer skin, soft cloth.
Yes, yes. And now we have been talking, I mean, and also I have been talking about Ashtanga yoga. I've been talking about dhyan and dharana and this and that, right? But Krishna does Krishna talk about that in so many words? Does he talk about that explicitly? Has he talked about that in chapter 6 till now? Krishna to Arjuna. He hasn't talked about, right? He has not given him his process. Although he might have talked about some of these things, some of the things he might have talked about even much earlier, even before we came to chapter number 6, right? And I'll give you a nice verse from Bhagavad-gita, and it'll come up on your WhatsApp group, and I need somebody to confirm. And while I'm waiting for you to confirm, I also wanted to welcome Shukarupa Mataji to the call. I'm so glad you're here, Shukarupa. And yes, I saw Vidya Vadu Mataji was texting me the answers. And yes, so you have to have proper postures. You need to have regulated food habits. Yes, there's all instructions given through the Dhyana yogis. Okay, very good. And then do you have the words that I sent you? Right? So what he's saying is that yada samharate chayam kurmongi va angani va sarvashaha indriyani intriyarthebhyas tasya pragya pratishtitaha. And he says that one who is able to withdraw his senses from sense objects as the tortoise draws its limbs within the shell is firmly fixed in perfect consciousness. And the purport, he says, the test of a yogi, devotee, or self-realized soul is that he's able to control the senses according to his plans. Most people, however, are servants of the senses and are thus directed by the dictation of the senses. That is the answer to the question that how the yogi is situated. Senses are compared to venomous serpents. They want to act very loosely and without restriction. Now, a yogi or a devotee must be very strong to control the serpents like a snake charmer. He never allows them to act independently. There are many injunctions in the revealed scriptures. Some of them are do nots and some of them are the do's. So what are the do's that we have got? We are also yogis. We're bhakti yogis, but we have some do's. What are the do's? What are the things we are supposed to do?
Chanting 16 rounds.
Mm-hmm. Very good.
Eating prasad only.
Honoring prasadam. Okay.
And worshipping God, paying obeisances.
All right. Very good. Do you want to read?
Thinking of Krishna.
Thinking of Smarana.
Remembering him.
All right. Do you want to read some books about him? Right?
Yes.
Shraddha, you have to read.
Spreading Krishna's name.
Yes, we're glorifying him. Very important. Yeah. Right. And then what are the don'ts that you have? What are the don'ts? Yeah. So Dheer Madhavi, your answer goes in that category. The don'ts, right? So don'ts are don't do this, don't do that, no alcohol, no meat eating, no illicit sex, no gambling, right? No, 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 no. Right? So that is those are the do's, right? So then restricting oneself, so yam and niyam are there. Restricting oneself from sense enjoyment is not possible without doing that, right? Unless one is able to follow the do's and do nots. Restricting oneself from sense enjoyment, it is not possible to be firmly fixed in Krishna consciousness. So you have to do that, right? The best example set herein is the tortoise. The tortoise can at any moment wind up its senses and exhibit them again at any time for particular purposes. Similarly, the senses of the Krishna conscious persons are used only for some particular purpose in the service of the Lord and are otherwise withdrawn. right? Arjuna is being taught here to use his senses for the service of the Lord instead of for his own satisfaction. Keeping the senses always in the service of the Lord is the example set by the analogy of the tortoise who keeps the senses within. And I really like the example of the serpent that Prabhupada gives. Now, most of you are, young, much, much, much younger compared to I am, and I had the good fortune to grow up in a town and not in a city. So the town was small, and the days were the olden days, and so if you went out to shop, like if your parents sent you out to go and shop for something, there would be a lot of interesting things that you would find on the way there that could distract your attention. And as a child, sometimes your parents said okay, and those were good days and easy days, and people were generally safe. So a parent could trust a 8-year-old and say, okay, now go to the shop and get me some potatoes. We ran out of potatoes. Go and get some potatoes. The child would carry the money in a basket and go and get the stuff, and everything was handled nicely. But on the way, there would be distractions. For example, and Vidyavadhu, my biological sister, can attest to that. That on the way, there would be sweetmeat shops where you could stop and spend the money instead. Or sometimes there would be, and if you were very lucky, a monkey dancer would come, the one who would, had learned how to control monkeys, and then, he would have a dugdugi in his hand, he would play that, and the monkey would dance, and the monkey would be wearing, one would be a female, one would be a male, and they would be wearing human clothes, and so you'd have fun like that. Sometimes the things were a little bit more, not that easy, and I'm just muting a noisy line here because that distracts my thought process. And and sometimes, it was a little bit more tough. For example, a snake charmer would come. So he would have come, with a pitari, a basket in which there would be snakes. And I still remember one time, one of them came, and he was a big snake charmer, and he had like 6 or 7 snakes. And I was so fascinated. And I was, I think, 7 years old. So when he opened the basket, all the snakes came out all at once and started going in another direction. But he was such a expert snake charmer that, so he was sitting in the middle, and all of us kids and adults also were surrounding him in a circle. Some were sitting, some were standing. Luckily, I was standing. And so the moment he opened the basket, all the snakes started coming out in all the directions. So they started coming out towards us, So all of us, were scared, and we stepped back, 4, 5, 6, took back 4, 5, 6 steps to stay away from the serpents that were approaching us. But this man was very expert, so he let them go. But then, as they went in that direction, the snakes' tails came in, handy, right? So he then caught them by the tail and then put them back into the basket, and they went there. And then he took out one, and then that was a cobra, and that cobra danced. And I could never figure it out, because when they said they are dancing, I thought that the snake will dance like I've danced, or my siblings dance, or how the film actresses dance. I used to think that the snake dances like that. I didn't know that snake dance is just the snake will raise the hood and sway a little bit like that. But anyway, even that is a big feat, considering that a snake is a very, very powerful animal and can bite you at any time. Of course, I'm sure those snakes had the poison fangs removed, but nonetheless, the look is pretty frightening. And so when Prabhupada starts defining the senses as snakes, this picture, never leaves my mind. And indeed, that is how the senses are. They are like the snake who have just come out of that basket. So the moment you are born, so, when you are inside the womb, your senses are not that much active. But once you come out of the womb, the senses go, you look at a newborn child, right? A freshly born child. And you go to the hospital to meet them, and you'll see the child is looking at the light, constantly looking at the light like that. So they see, their senses always reach out. So they are like the snakes that have been let out of the little pitari, as it's called in Hindi, the basket, the bamboo basket, and they go out, and they are trying to reach the sense objects. It is the nature. The senses are like that. But the mind, being superior to the senses, has to know how to control them. It's very, very important. So here, Krishna is also telling Arjuna in our verse from today that you have to do that. For one whose mind is unbridled, self-realization is a very difficult work. But for he whose mind is controlled and who strives by appropriate means is assured of success. Right? So he has not till now he has not told him. He's talking about controlling the mind. A yogi will control the mind, and he has talked about bringing it into, super soul. He's talked a little bit about, you sit, you focus your attention on the tip of the nose. You don't close your eyes because you'll go to sleep and like that, right? So the thing the situation that we have over here is that we have to go from point A to point B. And the point A is we are here in this material world. We are complete slaves of our senses. Kamadhinam katina katita palita durnideshas tesham jata maina karuna natripano pashanti. So it says that, these senses, they are very bad masters, and I have been slave of them, and they have no mercy, and they make me work like a bad master. 7 days of the week, 24 hours of the day, they make me work, right? That is how the senses are. They are bad. So I am in that situation. That is my point A. I try, my senses reach out. I try to enjoy the material world, but I really have to reach point number B, because that is the purpose of a human soul, of a soul that is in a human body. That's what I mean by human soul. That is the purpose. That is the ultimate aim of the law of the soul, is to find love of Godhead. From being this little beast, all that, doing nothing but trying to enjoy our own senses and use our senses for our own enjoyment, point A, you have to reach point B, where there's a complete paradigm shift and complete, reversal of how you use your senses, because now you start using your senses in the service of the Lord, and that becomes your main goal and main purpose of life, because you have reached a stage where you love God. So achieving prem or love of God is the highest perfection of life. Prema pumartho mahan. Mahan means great. Pum artho. Puma means human being. Artho means the greatest goal, what you want to achieve, the greatest benefit. And achieving that goal is prema, is to develop the love of God. Okay, so we have to go from point A to point B, right? So if I have to go, like I'm here in Foster City, and if I have to go to, say, San Francisco, then I can take out my car and I can drive all of the 25 miles it takes me to drive over there to go to San Francisco, right? That is one approach, and that is one way of going from point A to point B. You are driving yourself. The other way of doing that is that I hire a driver. I hire a driver and I sit in the car, and the driver is going to drive me and take me from point A to point B, from Foster City to San Francisco, like that, right? So, Dhyana Yoga that we are discussing in chapter 6 is like you are trying to drive yourself from point A to point B, right? You sit down, you first find a proper place to sit, and you figure it out how you're going to get that kusa grass, and you figure it out, how to take care of the animals, and you sit down and you make sure you're sleeping properly, you make sure you're doing this, you make sure you're doing that, and you now control your mind, and then put it where it needs to go, like that. Bhakti yoga, on the other hand, is the example that I gave, that you get someone to drive you. Let someone drive you from point A to point B, right? And then if you are trying to get somebody to drive you, right? Now, suppose you want to go from, some place, give me the name of some place. Like you want to go from Meerut to Delhi in India, or from Bombay to Pune in India. And so you go and say, okay, I need a taxi. And you have figured it out that you need a driver because you have realized that you have no driving skills. You can't drive, or, you're afraid that you might have an accident on the way. So you're going to hire a driver or rent out, for a couple of days. It takes whatever time it takes to go from Bombay to Pune. And so when you go to get the driver, will you just get any driver?
No, Mataji.
No, Mataji, whom we know will be better to.
Somebody that you trust. So what kind of a trust are you looking for? Like, what should he be expert in?
Should be expert in driving and expert in the directions also where to take them.
Okay, very good. So I heard Varshana Mataji speaking on the Zoom and Preeti Radhika speaking on our conference. And yes, so you gave me that you should be asking for somebody who's from a good company, somebody who knows how to drive. And Varshana Mataji said also somebody who knows the direction, right? Where are you going? So when you're saying that you have to come back to Godhead, where is Godhead? Somebody has to give me the address, right? And Krishna will take you there. So if you make Krishna your driver, then Krishna is going to take you there. So bhakti yoga, the process of bhakti yoga is that you allow Krishna to take you there. And who can be a better driver than Krishna? After all, he drove the chariot, right? In Mahabharata for Arjuna. So he's the best driver that we have. So bhakti yoga, you get someone else to drive you. You do certain things, but the general directions are coming like that. And as we progress in Bhagavad-gita, you will see that how merciful Krishna is there. And in the 10th chapter, Chaturshloki Bhagavad-gita, he says that Tesham satata yuktanam bhaditam priti purvakam tadami buddhi yogam tam yenamam upuyanti te. So he's saying that, when you are endeavoring in your devotional service, then he will give you the intelligence to be able to go further. He's sitting there, right? He's willing to drive you. All that we have to do is to surrender to Krishna. And we see that again in Bhagavad Gita, when Arjuna surrenders in 2nd chapter, he says that Sishyasteham shadi mam tamam prapannam. I am your student, surrendered soul to you. You please guide me now, right? So we have to keep in mind that we have to follow the right process. And up until now, he hasn't told Arjun about it. Actually, he has not even gone deep into the Ashtanga yoga at all, right? That you have to do yam, you have to do niyam, you have to do pranayam, you have to do pratyahara, you have to do dhyana, like that. No, right? But you have to follow the right process, and he will tell about the right process as we go. And in that process of when we are all seekers and we are trying to find who God is and where God is, it is very, very important that we follow the right process. And sometimes these processes are going to take time. And Prabhupada gives that wonderful example, and he says that when a woman gets married, she naturally wants to have children. But as soon as she's married, she cannot expect to have a child the very next day. She has to wait at least for 9 months, 10 days to get a child, right? So similarly, in these processes also, we should not be pushing and saying, oh, I'm not getting any results. It takes time. Going back to Godhead takes some time. It's not that it'll happen overnight for everybody. It can happen, but it'll require the mercy of the Lord to do that. So we have to follow the process, and we have to follow the right process, because if you don't follow the right process, it's so interesting example that Prabhupada gives, and he's saying that you are trying to ignite a fire while pouring water on it. So similarly, if you're saying that I'm doing yoga practice and not controlling my mind, Like I go and join some yoga parlor, and there are, I don't know, millions of yoga parlors nowadays. It's a very lucrative business, especially here in America, where money is easy. So people are unhappy. They're looking for some peace, and then these cheaters come along and they'll say, "Come to my parlor, and I'll make you happy." And they'll throw in a few Surya Namaskars and this and that, and then at the end they will have a lavish feast laid out for their students, which will have ham and it might even have alcohol. And then to make you feel even better, they can say you can even bring your dog into the class, and we'll have a dog yoga where your dog also practices how to do yoga, right? But this is not the right way. This is not the right process. This is like, you're trying to ignite a fire of devotional service, but you're pouring water on it. This is what Prabhupada is saying over here. And we will see that, that some will come and tell you that, okay, you want to find God. Okay, why? God is unmanifested. He is impersonal. He is nowhere. All that you do is to sit down and meditate on nothingness. And Krishna says, Klesho adhik tarastesham avyakta sakta chetasam avyakta hi gatir dukkham dehuvad bhiravapsati. He says it's very difficult for those who are embodied to start focusing and trying to control and focus your mind on something which is void. So what we need is some positive engagement. And the beauty of that is that once you engage your mind in Krishna, then it will not think of other things else. So you have to do substitution there, right? If you don't do that substitution, if you continue to do whatever you're doing, you continue to engage your senses in whatever you were engaging them in, and just go and sit in some kind of a posture and close your eyes and try to breathe in and do what Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who was the spiritual master of Srila Prabhupada, and he was a pretty strict person. He was a brahmachari, they have to be strict. So he was a pretty strict person, and he says to pranayama, he's referring to pranayama, and he calls it as, you are drilling your respiration. So I just always imagine that you have a drill machine in your hand, you're trying to drill, and basically he's saying that, these various processes like bhastrika and all that, where you're breathing in and out, and doing these kind of processes. But those processes are good. It's not that they are bad. They are there in the scriptures. But then there are other injunctions on top of that also. If you're practicing Hatha Yoga, then there are some negative injunctions also, that you should not do this. For example, you should not have sexual relationships at that time. You should not be indulging in intoxication at that time. And if you are doing all that, then you're not following the right process. So it is important that if you want to go from point A to point B, that you also follow the right process, right? Like that. For example, if you want to fly from Delhi to America, the process is that you should have a visa. You should have the qualifications to do that. If you don't follow the process, then we are in trouble. And we know the story of Vishwamitra, right? And Trishanku. So Trishanku was a king who wanted to go to the heavenly planets without following the process. So to elevate yourself to the heavenly planets, you should have done some pious activities, some amount of pious activities in your previous lives and this life. And so that once you get the proper entitlement, adhikar, to be able to reside in heavenly planets, then you will reach there. And 8th chapter of Bhagavad-gita talks about that, that it'll happen. 9 also talks about that once you reach the heavenly planets, and what happens after that. Krishna also tells Arjuna that later on, like that. So there is a particular process. There are some qualifications to be had. And Vishwamitra had some mystic powers, and he said, well, I will do it for you. Because this king, Trishanku, first went to Vashishta and said that, will you you are very powerful, because mystic yogis are powerful and you get, yogic powers to do that. And so I just want to go there in this very same body, this kind of a material body. I want to go to the heavenly planets where Indra is. And he said, no, I can't do that. It's against the Shastric injunction. So he was telling that, you have to follow the Shastras. So he didn't follow. He didn't want to follow. So then look at him. What he does is he goes to his sons. He goes to the sons of Vashist. And then he says that, can you send me to the heavenly planets? Because I don't want to die and go there. So then, during the conversation, it comes out that their father had, refused to take him there. So the sons get very angry at Trishanku, and he says that, it is so bad. When our father had refused and told you that he won't take it, how can we do it? And you should have thought it better, because that is the process. If the father has said not to do something, then we should, as children, we should not do it. So all the negative injunctions that Krishna gives us as our father, we have to make sure that we follow them. So Trishanku, then was very unhappy. But then look at the mind, how the mind goes. He knows that there is rivalry going on between Vashishta and Vishwamitra. And so he says, okay, you don't do it, I will go to your arch enemy and I'll ask him to do it. So he goes to Vishwamitra, and Vishwamitra agrees. So he was still not reached that level of perfection, Vishwamitra, and he says, okay, I will send you. So using his yogic power, he tries to send Trishanku up towards the heavenly planets. And then, this is against the law, this is against the rules. So Indra has to follow the rules. He cannot allow anybody to come into the heavenly planets. So he starts using his powers to push him down. So now there is a tug of war. I'm going to push you up, you're going to push you down, and both were powerful, equally powerful. So what happens with Trishanku? He's hung in between, nowhere to go. He wanted to go from point A to point B, but he did not follow the process. So you have to follow the process. Ravana is another example.
Yeah.
So why do you have to do all these things to go to the heavenly planets? Let's build a staircase to do that. Now, okay, even if we build a staircase, I don't know how you're going to build the staircase, but let's assume you even build it. How long is it going to take you to climb that staircase to reach the heavenly planets? Right? With what speed are you going to walk? How are you going to get that kind of a speed in a human body? Did not think of anything like that. Did not want to follow the right process there. So then Krishna is saying that well, you have to do that. You have to control your mind. And, in chapter 12, he says that if you're not following, you're trying to say, okay, I'm going to meditate in voidness and things and like that. He's saying it's a very difficult process for you to do. You can't do that because mind is flickering. And Arjuna has already given the verdict. He says mind is flickering. Chanchalam hi mana Krishna. He says that, right? So it's very difficult. The mind is going here and there, has to find some engagement. And if the mind is not engaged in Krishna, then what must it be engaged in? What do you think? If a mind is not engaged
all the material objects which are around us, we will be involved in that.
Exactly. And in a nutshell, we can say that the mind will be involved in Maya, right?
Yes.
If you're not engaged in Krishna, and then Krishna says, Krishna, there's a verse and the scripture said, Krishna Surya Sam, Maya hai andhakar, jahan Krishna taha nahi mayera adhikar. So wherever there, Krishna is like a sun and Maya is like the darkness. So wherever there is sun, there can be no darkness, period. So wherever you are engaging yourself in Krishna, then nicely, perfectly, then there is no question that your mind will be engaged in Maya like that. It'll be there. So follow the right process. He's given that hint over here in these verses. And then later on, when you go to the next chapter number 7, right? And let's take a little peep at chapter number 7 just to give you what's coming up. So that we know. And right in the beginning of the 7th chapter, Krishna is going to come and tell Arjuna something. And here we go. Just confirm, please, that you got it. Is that a yes?
Yes, Mataji.
Thank you. Okay. So he says, Maya Saktamana Partha Yogam Yunjam Madashrayaha Asamshayam Samagram Mam Yatha Gyasasi Tachunu. So he's saying, translation says that the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, now hear, O son of Pritha, how by practicing yoga in full consciousness of me, with mind attached to me, you will know me in full, free from doubt. So that's the process he's going to, narrate and talk about here. And then when you go, now that he's talked about 2 processes, 6, he's talking Dhyan Yoga, and now he's talking about Bhakti, he's beginning to talk about Bhakti. Then what do I do? Krishna, and then Arjuna will ask some more questions. And then, as part of that, in the 8th chapter, Krishna will go and compare the two paths for us. But for now, while we're in the 6th chapter, we'll stop here and open up for reflections. Anything that you heard new, anything that comes to your mind based on what we discussed here today.
I really liked in the puppet Mataji, trying to practice yoga while engaging the mind in material enjoyment. It's like trying to ignite a fire while pouring water on it.
Okay, good. So yes, very, very good point noted that, yeah. So that's what most of the people do that now when you go to all these pseudo places. Sutapa Mataji, you were saying something.
Yes, Mataji. I like the most, you mentioned that you allow Krishna to take you to the right direction. So, and the example you gave that a driver, we will hire that driver whom we can trust completely or blindly. So here we have to trust Krishna like that.
Exactly.
So I like that example.
Exactly. Yes, very right, very good. And Vidya Badhu also shares, and she says, "Yeah, make Krishna your driver." That's the takeaway point here. And it's just it is so funny that we are Krishna's children, and Krishna. I always imagine that it's my favorite pastime when I don't have anything to do, is to sit down and look up towards the sky and see that out there the other planetary systems are there, and which means the higher planetary system people, they are able to look down and see what's going on in the lower planetary systems. That's how the material world is. Standing here in the earth, I cannot look up and see what's happening in the heavenly planets, but if you are in the heavenly planets, you can know what is happening down below over here. So you can do that. So I always imagine that, okay, so what do you think is Lord Shiva doing right now? He's looking down below on earth, and he's looking at India, which is the center of the earth, and he's saying, all right, so yeah, there are two from Pune who are attending a class on Bhagavad-gita, and there's one in Sacramento, there's one in New York, oh, there are few in California, oh, there's one in Minnesota. So they look, what I'm just trying to say is that they see. And so when you are doing anything, just be aware, even if you're sitting alone in a room and trying to do something, they are all looking at it. They're all looking at it. We are so exposed. And here we talk about privacy, and people stole my address, people stole my social security number, I'm doomed, I'm this and I'm that, and what about my data privacy? And what about the fact that nobody should know what diseases I'm suffering from? Why should HIPAA Act, this and that? We talk about all that. But you know what? From the upper planetary system, we are so thoroughly exposed like that, completely, like that. And so when I look at that, I see that, when you go even higher and you look at Krishna, so Krishna is our father, right? So sometimes you notice that if you see a small child, and it's they try to put on shoes, right? So when a child learns to do something, right, and because of the ego that is there, I am, right? So prakriti kriya manani guna karmani sarvashaha ahankara vimodatma kartaham iti manyate. So he's saying that all these things that happen are happening because of the mode of material nature, but ahankara vimur. So this soul which is being bewildered because of false ego, ahankara, kartaham iti manyate, thinks that I am doing this. So as soon as a little child, you teach them, and they observe, they're very observant. As soon as you teach them how to put on their tiny little shoes, then the next time you take the shoes out, they want to put on the shoes themselves. And then you, as an indulgent parent, you will just watch them put on the shoes. And of course, I don't know what is the algorithm with kids, that they will always put on the shoes the wrong way. The left shoe will go in the right foot, the right will go in the left. I do not know, but every kid does it, right? And so similarly, I'm just thinking that, we like kids also put the wrong shoes all the time. And Krishna from the top is, observing us as a parent, saying, all right, okay, you went from this branch. And then along the way, the kids will also try to put things into their mouths. And sometimes they will put a little ant in their mouth, and the ant will bite, and then they'll come running like, yeah, like that. We do the same thing on a larger scale because we don't follow the right process. They have to follow the right process. Yeah. Okay, good.
Well,
Anything else?
I liked this point also, Mataji. Your yoga practice without mental control is just a waste of time.
Shama eva hi kevalam. Right? Yeah. Dharmasya anushthita pumsan vikshvat sena kathasuyat notpadayed yadiratim shrama eva hi kevalam. So he says, whatever you do, if that does not result in you getting, attracted towards Krishna, then that is just useless labor. So first canto, second chapter of Bhagavatam says that. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Vaishana Mataji, for that. Anything else anybody wants to say? We are on the top of the hour here.
Mataji, Hare Krishna. Can you hear me, Mataji?
Yes, I can hear you. And I was not looking at the screen, so I didn't see you, Charu Mataji. Yeah.
That's okay. I had a lot of internet out, phone wasn't charging, all those things. But anyway, I liked the last, just that you just said in between, I was lost. I mean, my phone was not working. But the last sentence that you said, it is so much, it has a great impact on life if one remembers this all the time, that anything we do, if it is not taking us towards Krishna, is that right? Then it is not the right karma or work or anything, or even a thought or anything altogether in life, period. That
Yes.
could be our job or our
Yes.
household work or
Yes.
talking to people. Like you are helping us a lot, Mataji. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. So that's, I have to remember that anything from this point onward, if I can remember that, I would be a fortunate soul.
Yeah, we all have to remember Krishna all the time. All the time. Mana Krishna padariye, right? You have to focus your attention on Krishna's thing. And there's also another beautiful verse in from the Srimad Bhagavatam. And he says that people talk about liberation and you will find so many paths. And that's why here I was telling you that there is from point A to point B, you can take any of the paths, right? And but there is a right path to go. For example, people talk about liberation and they will take you to liberation. Their process will take you to liberation to a point when where you realize that you are a soul. And after that, you're like, now I don't know what to do. It's like, join a company that you really want to work for, some very famous company and very powerful, very rich company, and you go and join there. And then nobody gives you any work to do. You just sit down and say like, now what am I supposed to do? Even if they pay you, right? After some time, you'll get bored and you'll want to leave it and come out, because that's the nature of the soul, to be doing something. So similarly here also, right? So along the paths that you're doing, we have to make sure that whatever we are doing is the right thing and ultimately should lead us to Krishna. And that's the check that you should always be doing. And when you are in doubt, then okay, you're in doubt. It's fine to be in doubt, but we should always be checking and clarifying our doubts all the time. Ask out, reach out to other people, who are experienced in that area and who will tell you that what's the right best process to do. Yeah, good observation, Charu Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you.
Yeah.
You had explained very nicely. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and Hare Krishna, Priti Radhika.
Yeah, so I was thinking that this verse and the purport Srila Prabhupada is emphasizing, like with the snake charmer example, that we should be able to control senses to be having success and self-realization. And I was thinking that the best way is like we all have experienced senses go crazy and temptations come in different ways. Like they can come even as a revenge, like because somebody wronged you and this urge to get even is so strong. And then on those times I have like prayed, because I know it's going to be bad for me. It's not going to get me anywhere. I'm going to fall down from my progress that I've made. And I've prayed like crazy, and it really works. Like prayer works. And then Giriraj Maharaj had said one time when I had asked the question, he said that, when you get a higher taste, and it's also in one of our verses too in our scripture, that when we get higher taste, then the propensity or attachment for lower taste goes away. So those were my two takeaways from today's discussion.
Yeah, very nice, very nice. Power of prayers, actually, in most of the cases, it's only prayers that help you. And yeah, I have put one verse which I thought, it's a nice verse that we could go through today. It's from Srimad Bhagavatam 10 to 32, and if you can confirm that you got it.
Yes, Mother.
You got that? Yeah. So this is from the 10th canto, where all the pastimes of Krishna are described and they're glorifying. Yenan yenirvindaksha vimukta maninas tvayasta bhavad avishuddha bhudayaha aruhya krichena param padam tata patentadho nadrita yushmad angrayaha. And very, very powerful verse here. It says, someone may say that aside from devotees, so devotees who always seek shelter at the Lord's lotus feet, there are those who are not devotees, but who have accepted different processes for attaining salvation. What happens to them? In answer to this question, Lord Brahma and the other demigods, and this is right at the beginning of 10th canto, when Lord Brahma and the other demigods have gone to Krishna requesting him to come and take care of this earth, because the earth is very much burdened by all the wrongdoings and all the wrong people who are there. So here, in answer to that question, Lord Brahma and other demigods are saying, so they're anticipating that question, and they're saying, they're addressing Krishna and saying, O lotus-eyed Lord, although non-devotees who accept severe austerities and penances to achieve the highest position may think themselves liberated, their intelligence is impure. They fall down from their position of imagined superiority because they have no regard for your lotus feet. So you see the mood of a devotee. He wants to be there in the lotus feet of the Lord. And one of the devotees actually prays, and he says that King Rajashekar, he prayed and he said that let the swan of my mind, right? So he is, well, in some ways he's using good words for minds. I have never used a good word for mind in all my lectures, but he's using a good word for mind because I think his mind is his friend. And so he's saying that let the swan of my mind be entangled in the lotus stems of your feet, in the stems of your lotus feet. So these swans, when they swim in the water and they're playing in the water, this is one of the pastimes that they do, is that there are lotuses which are there, and they will curve their beautiful necks, and they'll go and peck at the stems of the lotus flower plants there. So he says that I want the swan of my mind to go there and right now, because when I grow old, then it will be very difficult for me to remember you, because at the time of death, which is very difficult, then there will be bile juice that will be coming up. There'll be mucus that will choke my throat. So how will I even take your holy names, right? So better that now that my mind is alert, and I just wanted to go and attach itself to your lotus feet, and that I die right now. So devotees can go to that high level of feelings towards the Lord, that they just want to die in that position.
You brought this up before, right, Shraddha Mataji, this verse?
Yeah, I might have, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there are many, 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 many beautiful verses, and that's why we keep reading these scriptures over and over again, right? That we have got this body, and I was talking earlier in my lecture about Rishabh-dev, right? Who was the one with the Ajagar Vritti, who is a incarnation of the Lord, and he actually, as part of his instructions to his sons, he gives some very amazing teachings to him. Very, very amazing teachings. And one of them, and here, which is talking about that how people will pursue the path of yoga also, but the aim is still some kind of a material satisfaction, material gratification. It could start with, I'm going to use yoga for maintaining my health. I'm going to use yoga to um, get a beautiful body. I'm going to use yoga to get rid of some disease. I mean, yes, all those things you will get from yoga. These are concomitant factors. You get that. But the main aim of doing yogic practice, and that is why yoga means to connect. So who are you connecting with? If you're just going there doing some exercises and you're only connecting with yourself, you're trying to, just get something good out of it for yourself. But the real yoga is when you try to connect yourself with God. And with that in mind, now you go back and do the Suryasana, the Kamalasana, the this asana, and that asana, right? So this very beautiful verse, I'm just going to post it there on the WhatsApp group again. That will be the last verse for the day. And if you can confirm that you have done that, got that. You got that? Right. And I love this verse. It's one of my favorite verses. It says, Nunam pramatta kurute vikarna yat indriya pritaya aprinoti na sadhu manye yato atmanoyam asannapi kleshada ashadeha. And what it means is that when a person considers sense gratification the aim of life, he certainly becomes mad after materialistic living and engages in all kinds of sinful activities. He does not know that due to his past misdeeds, he has already received a body which, although temporary, is the cause of his misery. Actually, the living entity should not have taken on a material body, but he has been awarded the material body for sense gratification. Therefore, I think it not befitting an intelligent man to involve himself again in the activities of sense gratification by which he perpetually gets another body like that. Like that. So on that note, I will end the class today. It's way beyond the time for most of you. And we will meet again tomorrow morning at 6:30 a.m. on a Zoom call, which you can watch on Facebook or YouTube, whatever we are lucky with them that day. Vanchukalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyev cha patitanam pavnebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha gopremanande hari hari bol. Okay, give me a hari bol. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Mataji.
Thank you, Vaishana. Thank you, Charu Mataji. Thank you, Sonal Mataji, for that.